Welcome to our latest episode where we delve into one of the most pressing economic issues of our time, inflation. As we enter 2023, prices are skyrocketing, and many are left wondering how they can protect their finances and even how to profit from inflation. In this video, we'll explore the key strategies for investing during times of inflation and provide you with additional tips on how to be rich during inflation. Join us as we uncover the secrets of inflation investing and how it can benefit you in the long run. But before diving into more about that, let me first welcome you aboard for this episode of Finance Arc. On this channel, we set sail on a journey into the vast realm of financial matters, where we guide you through every step of the process and assist you in navigating the challenging world of finance, from simple budgeting advice to more advanced investing strategies. So grab your life vest and get aboard the Finance Arc. Inflation is a persistent concern for economies around the world because it can have significant impacts on the overall health of an economy. When prices for goods and services rise too quickly, it can lead to a number of negative consequences. One of the main concerns with inflation is that it can erode the purchasing power of money. This means that the same amount of money will buy fewer goods and services than it would have in the past. This can be particularly problematic for individuals and households with fixed incomes, or those who are struggling financially, as they may not be able to afford the goods and services they need. Inflation can also lead to uncertainty and volatility in financial markets. If inflation is high and unpredictable, investors may be hesitant to invest in stocks or other assets, which can have negative impacts on the overall economy. Additionally, high inflation can lead to rising interest rates, which can make it more expensive for individuals and businesses to borrow money. Another issue with inflation is that it can cause economic distortions. For example, if the price of one commodity or service rises faster than the price of another, it might create changes in customer behavior and potentially cause shortages or surpluses of that good. Governments and central banks employ a number of techniques to try to control inflation and maintain it stable. Such methods include adjusting interest rates, enacting monetary policies, and managing the supply of money in circulation. The COVID-19 epidemic has had a significant influence on global supply chains and is expected to be a key cause of inflation in 2023. Supply chain disruptions can occur when the movement of goods and services from producers to consumers is disrupted. Factory closures, transportation disruptions, and changes in customer demand can all cause these disturbances. The COVID-19 pandemic has created significant supply chain disruptions by disrupting worldwide trade and production in a variety of industries. Lockdowns and travel restrictions have been enacted in many nations, resulting in factory closures and transit disruptions. Furthermore, changes in consumer demand have resulted in shifts in the type of goods and services in demand, complicating supply chain issues even further. The disruptions to supply chains have caused critical goods and services shortages, which has driven up prices. For example, the price of lumber has skyrocketed due to supply chain disruptions, leading to increased costs for construction and housing. Similarly, the price of semiconductors has increased due to supply chain disruptions, which has led to increased costs for electronics and other products that rely on these components. The supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic have been particularly challenging because they have affected so many industries at once. This has made it difficult for businesses and policy makers to respond effectively to the situation. Monetary policy decisions by central banks have also played a role in inflation trends in 2023. Central banks have responded to the economic impacts of the pandemic by keeping interest rates low and increasing their bond buying programs. These policies have helped support economic recovery by making it cheaper for businesses and individuals to borrow money by providing additional liquidity to financial markets. However, these policies have also increased the supply of money in circulation, potentially contributing to inflation. When the supply of money in circulation increases, it can lead to increased demand for goods and services, which can push prices up. Additionally, low interest rates can make it easier for individuals and businesses to borrow money, which can increase demand and contribute to inflation. Central banks are aware of these dangers and closely monitor inflation developments. If inflation becomes excessively high or unpredictable, central banks may adjust their monetary policies in an attempt to bring inflation under control. They may, for example, raise interest rates or curtail bond buying programs to lower the supply of money in circulation, and so help control inflation. However, changing monetary policy can be difficult because it can have complex and far-reaching consequences for the economy. Central banks must carefully weigh the risks and benefits of different policy options and make decisions that support both economic growth and stability. The effects of inflation are felt differently across different sectors of the economy and can have a particularly harmful impact on certain groups and industries. High inflation can be particularly harmful to lower-income households who may struggle to afford basic goods and services. When the cost of goods and services rises faster than income, lower-income households may be forced to cut back on essential purchases or rely on credit to make ends meet. This can lead to a vicious cycle of debt and financial insecurity that can be difficult to break. In addition to impacting lower-income households, inflation can also have a significant impact on industries that rely heavily on imported goods. When the cost of imported goods rises with inflation, it can increase the cost of production for businesses that rely on those goods, leading to higher prices for consumers. This can be particularly challenging for small businesses that may not have the resources to absorb the increased costs. At the same time, some industries may actually benefit from inflation. For example, industries that produce goods and services that are in high demand may be able to raise prices and increase profits during periods of high inflation. Additionally, industries that produce goods that are not easily replaced, such as real estate or collectibles, may see the value of their assets rise with inflation. Governments and central banks around the world are taking steps to address inflation concerns and maintain economic stability. One common strategy is to tighten monetary policy by raising interest rates. By increasing interest rates, central banks can reduce the supply of money in circulation, which can help reduce inflationary pressure by slowing down the economy. Higher interest rates can also make it more expensive for businesses and individuals to borrow money, reducing demand for goods and services and further contributing to the price stability. Another strategy that some governments are using to address inflation concerns is investing in infrastructure and other programs to increase the supply of goods and services. By increasing the supply of goods and services, governments can reduce the upward pressure on prices and help promote economic growth. For example, investing in public transportation, housing, and healthcare can help make these essential goods and services more accessible and affordable, potentially reducing demand and prices. The effects of inflation are felt differently across different sectors of the economy. While some industries may benefit from higher prices, others may struggle to adapt to the changing economic landscape. For example, small businesses and lower-income households may find it difficult to afford basic goods and services as prices rise. Additionally, industries that rely heavily on imported goods may face increased costs and reduced competitiveness as the cost of imports rises with inflation. Addressing inflation concerns requires a multifaceted approach that balances the need for price stability with the need for economic growth and stability. Governments and central banks must carefully consider the potential impacts of different policy options and take steps to mitigate the negative effects of inflation on households, businesses, and the broader economy. By working together and using a range of tools and strategies, policymakers can help ensure that inflation remains under control and that the economy remains strong and resilient. Are you ready to take control of your finances? Subscribe to our channel for more tips on savings and investments. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Let's grow our wealth together. Stay tuned.